Sup, home dogs. So today I'm going to be working on some titanium Emersons. I'm doing a fancy engraving and crazy anodizing job. I say crazy because it's a little technique I've been meaning to try this whole time. I haven't had a chance to do it yet. To say I wanted to make this whole thing bronze, I just dip it in, make it bronze. Say I wanted to do an engraving, do the engraving first, dip it in, the whole thing will be bronze. If I wanted to do the engraving, I could make the whole thing bronze and then do the engraving will be silver, handle will be bronze. But what if I wanted the handle to remain silver, this exact finish, stonewash finish, but have the engraving be bronze? Well, let me show you. You bust out your wife's Revlon nail polish. Okay, that's a lie, this is mine, I bought it. But I bought it for anodizing, so that makes it cool, right? And I'm going to try painting the handle, which I just did. It should have full coverage, even though it looks kind of light and streaky here. It should still be covering the surface. And I'll get the edges too, I haven't done that yet. And then I'll do this one too. And that way, I'm going to chuck it up in the machine, and it's going to do the engraving, so that the engraved part will be the only exposed metal showing, besides the little inside the pockets here, whatever, it doesn't matter. That way when I'm anodizing, only the engraving will see the anodizing solution, so that will take the color. And then I use nail polish remover and strip off the rest, and in theory, this will work. I don't know how the nail polish is going to react to the end mill, like if it's going to be gummy, if it's going to chip, if it's going to gum up and drag or whatever, but I'm hoping it'll just cut very smoothly. Nail polish is pretty durable, resist, I should say. Like rubber cement wouldn't work because it'd just be glue. So whenever I can, I always like to try to do a test in aluminum or something soft, just so I'm not ruining good parts. So the first step I do is to outline the part, and then right now I'm doing what's called linear 3D machining, where it's just going left, right, left, right, left, right, doing perfect horizontal lines, basically making those center areas flat. And this takes a very long time. But it's usually worth it. I did the same technique for this one. So I profiled along the outside of all the lines first, and then did linear machining to get the flats. My aluminum test piece turned out pretty awesome. It went a little deep on the top corner here because the plate just wasn't that flat. And it's because I didn't spend a lot of time trying to make sure it was flat, but looks awesome. The nail polish looks like it'll work just fine. So I got this piece mounted up, bolted down super tight, 2 bolt holes. It's flat, I can't hear it. I can't really hear it slapping. So it's flat enough, just gonna zero it and go. This looks epic! Okay, so I just paused the code on this handle, just did the outline, and now I have a choice to make. I can do the left to right 3D machining, or I can just leave it the way it is. Honestly, I think it looks amazing the way it is right now. And this might make it look a little more crowded, a little more machined. You can see every line. I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and then anodize the lines and see how it looks. I have to make the choice and stick with it because I can't really go back. But I like it the way it is. It looks really clean. Really clean. So I just had an interesting idea for anodizing this little engraving. Remember I nail polished the surface and the sides and everything, thinking that I would dip it in my anodizing solution. But as a skill for me to learn and to show you the wonderful people, I'm going to try to anodize this a different way. I'm going to take some Crayola modeling clay. Stole this from my daughter. I'm going to take some modeling clay and make a little moat around the part, around the engraved area that I did, so that I can fill that with acid and apply my anodizing electrodes to it and flash just that little area. And for this particular part, I don't need to do that. That's overkill and kind of pointless. But for future engraving projects, this could be very handy because the part stays bolted to the machine. So if I wanted to remachine it and anodize the new machined parts a different color, I could do that very easily. Or, well, that's pretty much it. Or if I wanted to quickly erase that anodizing, I would engrave it again like 1/1000th of an inch deeper, just with barely scraping the anodized layer off. And then I could do it again. So as a skill and cool stuff to show, let's do that. Okay, so here's the engraving. It turned out awesome. Got my little stick of modeling clay here. I just want to create a little swimming pool right around the engraving. Being very careful not to cover the engraved area, because that would defeat the point of everything I'm doing here. There is, if you notice, there's a bolt hole right there. So I have to make sure to shove a little bit of clay into there. Just a little piece there. Cut that forward. So over here I brought over my anodizing stuff. One day I'd like to make it more modular and easier to move around. But you like my little flat surface there, the leftover water jet pieces. So I brought the stuff over here, powered it up. There's my voltage gauge. It says 89 right now. I'm going to power up the part. One thing I want to note is that I am going to turn off the machine because I'm applying a different power source to the ground on the machine, and I just don't want them to interfere and short circuit my machine and fry stuff. So I'm going to do that. So here in this peanut butter jar I've got my super weak sulfuric acid. It's like a 1:100 ratio of water and acid. A little eyedropper. I'm just going to start filling this thing up. All I need is for it to cover the engraving. Nothing more. One more. There. So this stuff's so weak, you could get it on your skin and you wouldn't even feel it, I think. Make sure there's no air bubbles on the part. I see a little one right there. Nope, looks good. Now there's a trick for reverse anodizing, which is kind of what this is. And I think you reverse the polarity, but I'm not positive. So I'm just going to ground the part like I always do and apply, well, I guess I usually ground the water. the cathode and apply power to the part. Okay, good thing to note. I touched my ground, which applies a DC voltage ground, and even though my gauge was at 0 just a minute ago, and the you can't see it right now, but the variac is turned off, I touched this ground wire to my grounded milling machine, and voltage jumped up to 150 volts. I saw the lights dim a little bit. So I probably don't want to do this. Not while the machine is still hooked up to power. I don't really want to unplug the entire machine. I think the base of the machine is grounded to the grounded circuit of the house, and applying DC, filtered DC to that sucks. So maybe what I can do is unplug the machine. It's grounded through the spindle motor to the chassis. It's not grounded anywhere else. Okay, so I just did that. And last time when I touched this to that, I got a little spark. Nothing now. Okay, now the machine is not grounded, so I'm safe to do this. You want to see a big spark? Notice I'm at 128 volts. Check this. That was not a big spark at all. I guess there wasn't any juice in there, just voltage. Okay, let's try this again. Yeah, much safer now. Just got to find a good place to bolt it down to. Maybe right there. It's still rising in voltage because it's touched to this ground. I don't know what's going on. But this won't take long. The voltage is still rising because it's being grounded to the machine. I'm not even turning up the variac. But it's rising. It's at 8.2 right now. 12 volts will start to get me the bronze that I'm looking for. There's 10 volts. I don't see any color yet. There's 11 volts. This is weird. I don't like this. And then I unplug the ground and the voltage stops rising. What if I apply power to it? Is this a bad idea? Once again, rising. I don't know. It's reverse filtering itself or something. I don't know what the terms are. Basically, it ain't working. Was this a bad idea? Possibly. Somehow I need to isolate the machine from being grounded to the wall, which I thought I already did. So what I've decided to do to fix this voltage rising problem is I'm going to take the fixture plate off the machine. It is pinned onto the table with dowel pins, so it is repeatable. I can replace it back on there and have it be close enough. Not that it matters for this part, like I said, but I need it to be electrically isolated from the machine, otherwise it's going to rise like that. So I'm just going to unbolt it, lift it up, put a piece of wood or something under there, and then continue. But of course I realized I can't do that because, sure, I've got these two bolts on the side, but I've got a flat head bolt in here, and I've got a flat head bolt right under my finger somewhere, under the handle. That makes that impossible. Crapola. Don't know yet, let me think. Okay, so I've got positive hooked up to the table. As you can see right here, that's positive. In my left hand is negative. Voltage is creeping right now, 7.2, 7.8, 8.2, 9. But I can ground it out on the table. And if I hold it in the water, it doesn't creep. And it goes down to where the variac is actually adjusted to. So I basically just need to hold the wire underwater, and it'll keep it where I want it. So it's a 2.8 or 1.6 right now. And crank the variac up. I'm shooting for, let's go for 14. 7, 9, 12. I think I see a color change. Yeah, it's getting darker for sure. Oh yeah. Let's go for 14, 13.5, 14. Just let it sink in, just in case it takes a while. Stuck at 13.9, that's good enough. Oh yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I think we're good there. Crank it off, I'm going to bleed the voltage. Little spark. Awesome. So this is sort of, it feels like reverse anodizing, but the water is getting negative, just like normal, and the part is getting positive, just like normal, even though it's kind of all backwards, but it works awesome. Bleed the voltage off. I like to apply the wires like this so that they don't short. And there you have it. Check that out. Now the engraving is bronze and the whole handle is stonewashed silver. Now I have to do the same thing to the other side. Luckily in Mach 3 there's a wicked little trick I learned surfing the Mach 3 forums to mirror this part, because the other handle right here gets bolted like this. They're exact mirrors of each other along this center line. So this is my zero location for this exact job. And all I have to do is change, there's a scaling factor on the computer. From +1, if I change it to -1, it'll make all the numbers negative in the X, side to side. And that's one quick change, and run the same exact code again, and it'll do this over here, mirrored. So I'll do that next, and then soak them in nail polish for a while. So as you can tell, this one bled quite a bit. I'm sort of not too thrilled about that. This one's much crisper. This is the second one that I did. It turned out a lot crisper. Nearly perfect, I'd say. This one bled quite a lot. Don't know if that's showing up on camera as well as I would want it to. As well as I see it in person, but not exactly sure how to get rid of that. One option is obviously to sand the surface smooth. That way the recessed engraving will keep the color. But these are so beautifully stonewashed that I don't want to sand through that. I might try with a Scotch-Brite pad. Like here's a Scotch-Brite pad. Pretty coarse grit. I might try that maybe on the back side. See if it leaves any ugly scratches. So I got to try that. And then I could just scratch over here and hopefully get rid of the color I don't want. We'll see. Other than that though, I mean, they look sweet. Yeah, they look very sweet. So that's how you do that. Another thing I wanted to mention was nail polish might not be the best choice for doing what I did, because maybe it's the remover I used. It's an acetone-free nail polish remover. It's all I could find. If I used actual acetone, it might dissolve it better. But the stuff I used left it pretty gummy, and I had to use a toothbrush to brush it away. Basically, it didn't dissolve it. It just made it weaker and turned it into paste, basically. So I could brush it away and clean it up fairly well. But I still had to take a little tiny sticky and go into some of the grooves to get little bits of nail polish out still. So ideally I'd like to use something better that dissolves completely away in whatever chemical. If you guys have any suggestions, feel free to comment, let me know. I mean, paint is an option, then you'd use paint thinner, but I think you'd be left with the same result. It just turns to gum that you'd have to pick away. I want something that just disappears in whatever chemical. What's that stuff called? Rubber cement is the same way. You apply it, I don't think you could machine through it as well as this, so it wouldn't work anyway, but you dissolve it in toluene and it turns to mush. Though it still sort of has to be cleaned out a little bit. So I don't know. Keep playing with it, but from a distance they look sweet. These turned out much better. Well, all I did was I mounted it in my little sanding block. This one. Mounted it in the sanding block so I could hold it. Took a little bit of Scotch-Brite here and just went long strokes back and forth to get rid of that bleeded color, blood. And surprisingly, the stone-washed finish is still kind of there, which is awesome. There's not really any scratch marks, which is awesome. It just got rid of the edge bleed, made the color pop that much more. Now they look fantastic. And they're still kind of stone-washed, which is sweet. So that worked awesome. That's how you do that. And by the way, this pattern is a customer, sent me this pattern and wanted it on his handles, so I don't know that it's exactly available for purchase on anybody else's handles. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.